Have you ever experienced those too-good-to-be-true coincidences when it comes to money? Maybe you desperately needed cash for your mortgage or college tuition, and then an old friend suddenly repaid a small loan, or a freelance project popped up out of nowhere. Or maybe you were dreaming of starting an online business and instantly got introduced to the perfect mentor, or found an unexpected source of funding. What's really going on here? Is it just random luck, or is the universe trying to talk to us, especially about our finances and wealth? In this video, we're going to decode the universe's mysterious language through the concept of synchronicities. You'll discover 5 types of money synchronicities you need to recognize to attract wealth and prosperity into your life in perfect harmony. But first, let's hear a true story. It's one of history's most incredible chains of coincidences, and it'll make you really think about how events are ordered in life. Back in 1900, King Umberto I of Italy was having dinner at a restaurant in Monza. He was amazed to see that the restaurant owner looked remarkably like him. The two started chatting and were even more astonished to discover a series of unbelievable coincidences. Both were born on the same day, March 14, 1844, and both were born in Torino. Both were married to women named Margherita, and both had a son named Vittorio. Even stranger, both were awarded honors on the same day, and both took on their respective position, king and restaurant owner, on the exact same fateful day. This was already an astonishing story, but the more chilling coincidence happened the very next day. As King Umberto was getting ready to go out, he was informed that the restaurant owner had just died in a shooting accident. Just a short while later, an assassin appeared and shot King Umberto, seeing himself. See? A chain of events that couldn't possibly be purely random. It makes us wonder, is there some kind of arrangement beyond normal logic? Extraordinary events like the story of King Umberto Ferrari aren't just random chance. In fact, these incredible coincidences often carry deep meaning for those who experience them, creating a profound and sometimes mystical feeling, as if the universe is trying to convey a personal message to us. And very often, these messages directly relate to our money, our jobs, or our businesses. The brilliant Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung dedicated his life to studying this phenomenon. He defined them as synchronicities and made a shocking statement. What I found when I investigated this phenomenon closely was that the coincidences are connected in such a meaningful way that their probability of occurring randomly would represent an astronomical improbability. You get it? He's saying these events are too special, too deliberately aligned to be just luck or chance. This means the financial opportunities or unexpected warnings you experience might not be random at all, but rather signals arranged by a higher intelligence. Jung discovered that what seems random can actually have a deeper, more transcendent meaning. He clearly showed the profound connection between our consciousness and the universe, especially when it comes to attracting the flow of money. He affirmed that our inner psyche and external environment are linked in ways that go beyond normal cause and effect. This is precisely why, sometimes, just by focusing your thoughts on a specific amount of money, a new job, or paying off credit card debt, those corresponding events mysteriously start appearing in your life. This is the foundation for the law of attraction that we often talk about. Synchronicities are incredibly important because they are personal proof that our financial situations are sometimes malleable, not fixed, and extremely sensitive to our consciousness. Reflect on the famous quote by the genius Albert Einstein: "Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one." If reality is an illusion, then your current financial situation is too. It's not a solid, unshakable wall. It can be shaped by what you believe, feel, and focus on. Synchronicities demonstrate that this financial world behaves more like a collective dream or a matrix-like simulation than a rigid, independent physical structure. This is strongly supported by quantum physics. Quantum scientists have shown that physical events are ultimately determined by metaphysical factors. The observer, by the act of observing, defines matter. That means your consciousness doesn't just influence tiny atomic particles. It also influences the formation of physical reality, including money and assets. And synchronicities, are a direct manifestation of this truth in your journey to master your finances. They are whispers, signs, winks from the universe to remind you of your own power to create wealth. Understanding the power of this language of the universe will help you realize you're not alone in your journey to create wealth. The universe is always there, always communicating and guiding you. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into 5 different types of money synchronicities you might encounter. When you learn to recognize and decode these hidden messages, you can synchronize with the universe's money flow and your higher self, attracting wealth and prosperity into your life in perfect harmony. Synchronicity is the silent language of the universe. But how do you recognize these whispers when they appear? How do you tell the difference between a coincidence and a true sign from the universe, especially when it comes to money? Here are 5 main types of synchronicities we often encounter. 1. Financial warning synchronicity. Think of this type of synchronicity as a yellow light or even a red light from the universe. These signs often come when you're at a major financial crossroads. For example, you're about to pour all your savings into a real estate investment that sounds too good to be true, or you're about to sign a big loan agreement. At these times, the universe will create a chaotic energy point in your current timeline. It's like a gentle nudge, or sometimes a clear push, to make you stop and think more carefully. When do they appear? When your financial future is uncertain, you have many choices, and one of them could lead to negative consequences. The universe wants you to avoid going down that undesirable timeline. Let's look at a very real example. You're super excited about a cryptocurrency investment opportunity a friend just told you about. They say it's a super profitable project, something that could change your life in just a few months. You've done some quick research, it seems plausible, and you're ready to transfer a large sum from your savings account. Just as you're about to hit the confirm button for the online transaction, your home internet suddenly starts acting up, constantly dropping even though everything was stable before. You try restarting the modem, but it stubbornly won't work. You feel restless, a strong urge to hesitate, even though you still really want to invest. You decide to go out for a bit to clear your head and find a coffee shop with Wi-Fi. On the way, you witness a pretty serious car accident right in front of you. The incident causes a traffic jam, and you're delayed for quite a while. When you finally get to the coffee shop and are about to complete the transaction, you accidentally overhear a conversation between 2 people at the next table. They're talking about a major scam in a recent crypto project, and you hear the exact name of the project you were planning to invest in. All these strange obstacles, the flickering internet, the car accident, and the accidental conversation made you stop and reconsider your decision. You decide not to invest. A few weeks later, you read the news that the crypto project went bankrupt, and many people lost everything. If your internet hadn't glitched, if there hadn't been that accident, and if you hadn't overheard that conversation, you might have made a hasty decision you would have deeply regretted later. This is how the universe sends you warning signs about a financial risk, a silent language to protect your money. 2. Financial confirmation synchronicity. Unlike the warning red light, this type of synchronicity is like a green light turning on from the universe. They often come with important decisive moments for your financial growth and personal transformation. They confirm that you're on the right path or help you choose correctly from available options. Think of them as an invisible compass guiding you toward wealth and holistic development. When do they appear? When you've just made a big financial decision, e.g. starting a new job, launching a business, investing in a new channel, or when you've just overcome a persistent financial fear. When you choose a path that aligns with your true self and your deeper purpose in this life, a timeline of prosperity will open up. The universe will send signals to strengthen your belief and encourage you to continue. It's like this. You've been nurturing the idea of starting your own business for a long time. Maybe an online handmade store or a small consulting service. The fear of failure, the worry about money kept holding you back. What if I lose money? What if no one buys? Those questions kept swirling in your head. Finally, after many sleepless nights, you bravely take a deep breath, leave your stable job to focus on your passion, and invest all your savings to build your company's foundation. You feel a bit anxious, a little uncertain about the future. Right after completing the business registration and posting your first introduction on social media, You decide to go out for some fresh air, taking a stroll in a nearby park. You sit on a bench, still pondering what you've just done. Suddenly, as you sit down, a delivery truck from a successful startup company unexpectedly stops right in front of your bench. The truck has a big slogan clearly printed: "Dare to dream, dare to do. Success awaits you." And right behind it is a large billboard with a smiling man holding two $100 bills with the words, "Investing in yourself is the best investment." You instantly interpret it. This is a clear sign, a confirmation from the universe that you're on the right track. A deep sense of joy, relief, and connection with the universe floods you. It's like a silent affirmation. Keep going. The path to prosperity is opening up for you. This is how the universe confirms that the flow of money is coming to you when you follow your heart. 3. Prophetic financial synchronicity. These synchronicities are like pieces of a future financial puzzle, sent to you by the universe in the form of symbols, signs, or omens. They're often not immediately clear and require a bit of decoding. When do they appear? It could be in recurring dreams, through numbers you constantly see, like 888, 1111 on the clock, on license plates, or even on your shopping receipts, or through specific symbols that appear repeatedly in your life. These signs can be used to confirm a financial decision you've just made or warn you about potential dangers on your path to wealth. Interpreting these symbolic messages is like decoding dream symbols. It requires you to subtly observe the timing and circumstances surrounding when they occur. By recording these experiences and looking for patterns, you can begin to understand their meaning and how they might affect your finances. These synchronicities show a deep connection between waking reality and the dream world, reflecting the idea that both dreams and reality are influenced by our consciousness. One about money. Look at these strange but familiar signs. You keep seeing the number 888 everywhere. You see it on license plates on your way to work, on your phone clock when you casually glance at it, on the total amount of a Target shopping receipt, and you even dream of counting lots of brand new dollar bills. You look it up and learn that 888 is a symbolic number for wealth and prosperity in many cultures. At first you might think it's just random, but the excessive repetition makes you think. You start spending time delving deeper into the meaning of this number, about the principles of money energy and how to attract abundance. This motivates you to focus more on increasing your income, seeking new business opportunities, or researching investment channels. A few months later, a business opportunity you planted long ago, for example, a YouTube channel you built about personal finance or a small real estate project you put effort into finding, suddenly explodes, bringing you an unexpected large profit, just like the prophecy of the number 888. This is a sign the universe sent to prepare you for upcoming wealth, a premonition for you to be ready to receive. 4. Manifestation financial synchronicity. This is the type of synchronicity many people desire most because it's directly related to the law of attraction. Manifestation synchronicity is when you see or hear something physically present in your life, and it's a direct result of a strong financial thought, desire, or emotion you had beforehand. When do they appear? Right after you have a very clear desire for money, or when you are in a high-energy state, completely focused on attracting abundance. It's like this: you desperately need exactly $3,500 to pay off a credit card debt that's due, or to pay this month's rent. You spend weeks visualizing that money appearing in your bank account, feeling the joy and relief when the burden is lifted. You absolutely believe you will get that money. One afternoon, you check your email and see an unexpected notification from an old project you freelanced on a few months ago. It's a bonus payment for better than expected results, and the exact amount is $3,500. You're completely surprised and stunned. Or another situation, you step out of your house and right in front of you, on the sidewalk, you see an envelope full of money, and when you open it, it's exactly $3,500. What does this mean? Is it an omen? Has your mind registered a future financial event, or has your focused thought created it? Both possibilities could be true, but when our thoughts directly affect our financial reality, we're talking about manifestation synchronicity. In this case, your thoughts and energy frequency activated a future event through your subconscious, manifesting externally as a reflection of your desires. The most interesting thing is that the physical events necessary for this to happen can extend into the past, modifying something even before you had the initial thought. Think about finding the envelope of money in front of your house. Perhaps the decision of the person who dropped that envelope was made before you had the need for money. This may seem unbelievable, but it aligns with quantum physics, which has shown that our current choices can affect quantum processes from the past. This suggests that both the future and the past are not fixed, but are influenced by our consciousness in the present too, especially when you focus on the flow of money. 5. Opportunity financial synchronicity. This type of synchronicity is the perfect combination of your preparation and an unexpected financial opportunity, making them crucial tools to boost your destiny and personal wealth story. These synchronicities are golden opportunities that arrive at just the right time to help you escape difficult financial situations or to open up new avenues for wealth in your life. When do they appear? Although they may seem improbable by conventional logic, they fit naturally and easily, as if they are part of a perfectly designed prosperity plan created by the universe just for you. The key characteristic of opportunity synchronicity is that they fill you with joy and relief when you experience them. You feel intuitively right, with no friction or resistance. Everything unfolds smoothly, as if there's a natural harmony between the synchronous sign and your path to wealth. Here's a very relatable example. You're a talented programmer in Silicon Valley, working hard to develop a new fintech app, a passionate startup project. However, you're struggling with funding and finding the right partners. You've sent proposals to many venture capital funds and angel investors but have been rejected or received no response. You're starting to feel discouraged. One day, you decide to attend a small free startup workshop at a local university just to get a change of scenery and listen in. There, while waiting for coffee, you accidentally bump into an older man. As you apologize and help him pick up his papers, you two start chatting. It turns out he's a legendary tech investor who just retired and is looking for promising startup projects to ignite his passion one last time. He's very impressed with your idea, with your energy and vision. After a few meetings, he decides not only to inject a large amount of capital, but also to become the main mentor for your startup. Everything happens naturally, smoothly, with no friction or forced effort. You feel as if the entire universe orchestrated this fateful encounter to help you realize your financial and career dreams. This is a perfect opportunity synchronicity when your preparation meets the exact opportunity tweaked by the universe to fit you. After thoroughly exploring synchronicity and its different types, it's time to see how to truly integrate them into your daily financial life. More importantly, you'll learn how to read the language the universe is using to guide you to wealth. 1. Develop sensitive money awareness. To start seeing these signs, you need to develop a sensitive money awareness. This requires you to pay attention to small, seemingly insignificant details in your daily life, especially those related to money, work, or opportunities. Start noticing interesting moments you might have previously overlooked. These could be recurring themes. Are you constantly hearing about a new type of investment from multiple sources, or suddenly everyone around you is talking about starting an online business? It could also be money numbers appearing repeatedly. Do you frequently see numbers like 888, luck, prosperity, 777, luck, spirituality, or numbers related to your birth date, account number on bills, license plates, or even on your phone clock? Or symbols or images? Do you suddenly see money tree symbols, gold coins, or images of a wealthy life appearing frequently on social media, in ads, or in your dreams? Finally, it could be chance encounters. Do you accidentally run into an old acquaintance just when you need career advice and that person turns out to be the key to unlocking a new door? These could be synchronous events trying to communicate with you about your financial path. The universe doesn't use words. It uses signs and signals to grab your attention. 2. Keep a prosperity sign journal. An incredibly powerful tool to start decoding the universe's language is to keep a prosperity sign journal. Write down all the coincidences related to money that you experience. For example, you could write something like this: date/time, specific date time, event/sign. I was thinking about needing $1,000 for a course, then suddenly received an email notification of a $1,000 bonus from my company. Emotion: felt very surprised and grateful, like some force was helping. Interpretation/hidden meaning: the universe is confirming I should invest in myself, or showing that my thoughts have the power to manifest money. This journal isn't just about recording events, it's also about reflecting on them, looking for patterns, and trying to decode their personal meaning for your money. As you do this regularly, you'll start seeing connections you never noticed before, helping you decipher the universe's language more clearly. 3. Step out of your financial comfort zone. If you find yourself rarely experiencing money synchronicities, you might be living too much in a financial comfort zone, where everything is too stable, predictable, and has few major changes. Money flows without significant events or notable opportunities. The surest way to unlock money synchronicities and learn to understand the universe's language is to step out of your comfort zone and open yourself to new experiences. This requires you to have an attitude of awe and wonder toward financial reality, constantly exploring your own consciousness. This could mean daring to try new things with money, such as learning a new skill to earn extra income, researching an investment channel you never considered, or even changing jobs if you feel stuck. It can also be exploring consciousness through self-reflection, meditation, or positive visualization, vividly imagining the wealth you desire. When you visualize a dream home, a full bank account, or a successful business, you're sending powerful signals to the universe. Or reflecting on dreams, your dreams can contain important messages about money. Pay attention to recurring dreams or particularly vivid ones. When you expand your consciousness and your comfort zone, the universe will have more space to send messages and guide you. 4. Listen to your inner financial wisdom. Finally, we need to learn how to distinguish between impulses and emotions about money that come from our social and biological programming and those that arise from our inner spiritual core. That's your intuitive financial wisdom. Social programming often says things like, money is hard to earn, you have to work hard to be rich, rich people are bad, or you don't have enough money to do that. These beliefs are often passed down from family, friends, or society. In contrast, intuitive wisdom is a deep sense of rightness when you make a financial decision, a strong urge to seize an opportunity, or a feeling of peace when you decline a seemingly attractive deal that just doesn't feel right for you. Your intuitive wisdom is the most powerful compass for navigating the flow of money. It is the voice of your higher self, trying to guide you. The more we act from our true spiritual and intuitive wisdom, the more likely we are to encounter synchronicities on our path, which will guide us along a positive and abundant financial timeline. Remember, sometimes if you are too connected to your higher self and your inner self, you will no longer need external signals to be sent to you, because you have truly merged with the universe's flow of abundance. You become the creator of your own synchronicities. Start listening to the language of the universe today. Keep a journal of the signs. Open yourself to new experiences and trust your inner intuitive wisdom. When you do that, you'll not only unlock the door to wealth, but also experience a prosperous, peaceful, and abundant life, exactly as you deserve. If you found this video valuable, please like and share it with anyone who needs to hear this powerful message. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the wealth secrets from universal energy that I'll share in upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and see you on our journey to prosperity.